Right, so far I've spoken about getting into a business school in Europe, specifically in France. This video on, I'm speaking about decisions you'll face after you've moved to France. If you still have questions about the move, leave a question, Q&A section, next week's video, you know the drill. In this video, I'm talking about picking the right MSc for you and all the research that you could do well in advance to make sure that the first job you get is a success. An academic year is not exactly 12 months, and before you know it, it's time to pick your MSc. Picking the right MSc is crucial to make sure that you get into the right job that kind of fits you. And it's not exactly easy to know which field you want to work in, backtracking the MSc, for two reasons. Your internship experience is not representative of what your permanent role would look like in this field. And two, you build a bias around words like marketing, HR, finance, data, and so on, depending on what people told you and what you heard from people. Both these sources have a high chance of being inaccurate, and that's why you should do your own research, a really objective, try to be as scientific as possible kind of a research to make sure you get into the right job. Because this is such a personal question, step one is really to get to know yourself. And if you haven't taken the time to do this, I've spoken about an exercise on this channel before. You can have the sense of general not being happy because you haven't defined what it is that would make you happy. So answer these two questions and life should be much happier. I had an interesting chat with Laura Lissua, who runs a really successful podcast.
It's your why, why are you here? What is your real value that you can bring to other people and that will satisfy yourself? So basically the Ikigai is four things, four circles that at one moment they join together, and the common thing is the Ikigai.
What you like to do, what you're good at, and what you can get paid at. There was a fourth one, but these three already are good enough. And the intersection between these three, she introduced me to this philosophy of Ikigai. You want to find your Ikigai. Now the school can show you the different things that you can get paid to do, but only you can clarify what it is that you like to do and what it is you're good at. So if you haven't done this exercise already, take a second or two to go through these two questions from my previous video. Once you have clarity on these two questions, it's time for step two. Reach out to people who are a little ahead of you, not like 30 or 40 years ahead of you in that domain. Reach out to people who are a little ahead of you and ask them what their typical day looks like. What are their responsibilities like? How are they measuring their success? Now, the reason why you want to pick someone who's just 5 years or something, 10 years ahead of you instead of 30, 40 years ahead of you is because of this thing called the curse of knowledge. This is the idea that an expert cannot relate with the problems of a beginner. Now, so how I did it is something like this. I figured that I love technology and the freshness of new things coming up in technology does not scare me. It does not intimidate me. So I locked that in. I'd like to work in data or I'd like to work in tech. This clarity came before my internship, so it helped me confirm some of my research conclusions. For example, online I learned that many French companies outsource their data part of the operations, IT part of the operations, over onto India in cities like Chennai, Bangalore, and Mumbai. And I speak these three languages, and I speak the language of the client, French. Now, while everyone does speak English at a workplace, having a person in the room who understands all these languages for a junior is a coveted trait. And that's how I got my foot in the door for my first job. So when I was still a student, I doubled down on my French and even started dabbling more with Indian media to make sure that I still have the freshness of new expressions, new jokes and references and so on in my head. And I reached out to people from my school who passed out a couple of years ago and who work in data. I asked them the usual suspects. What does a typical day look like? What constitutes success? And what it is like to work in a permanent role in that company, which is not very similar to what you do in an internship. Out of the many people I reached out to, I'm really grateful for people like Nicholas Roth from AWS who took hours to coach me / train me to answer my questions at end about the data industry itself. I also had a couple of chats with Guillaume Fernandez who helped me to prepare for my first data role at Salesforce, where I never worked, but these tips helped me to find my first job in data anyway. There are also people like Marion de Mézières, Jonathan Bonnet, and Daria Kunz, who took a call with me to answer a couple of questions that I had back in the day. If it wasn't for them, I'd legit be lost. You want to do this research to find out which is the best fit for you. I got into mechanical engineering, hearing from people, mentors, elders, people that I trusted, that this is an evergreen field. Turns out it was not that much of an evergreen field. But when I got out of school and started working at a factory, I realized that I have almost zero human interaction during the day, and I don't use the language prowess that I take so much pride in. That can happen to you again if you don't pay attention to what you want and just go to what people think is prestigious. At business school, I noticed that everyone wants to work in strategy consulting. It's a very well-paid job, but I don't think that was the ideal role for me. I do like my free time in the evening and in the weekends, and I don't want to be bothered by like 80 or 90 hours of work a week. Now, I say this because I've heard so many students desperately want to work in product management or strategy consulting without knowing what a typical day looks like in that field. Reach out to people and ask for clarity in the field to kind of confirm that you've locked on to the right industry. If you feel like you're late and you want to get started with this whole exercise, it's never too late. After working for a couple of years, it's still not too late. But to get to know yourself, check out this video where I talk about the exercise that helped me to understand who it is I am and what it is that I want. Now it's time for the Q&As. Learn French with Dani. Go away, Dani. Hamza Rihahi. We studied together at edX. On APS visa, we are allowed to work part-time 20 hours a week. But however, if I manage to find a full-term intern, I didn't get an APS, but I think that's why you get an APS, to get like a full-time job. Is it 44,000 per month or per year? It is 44. I made a mistake in one of the vertical videos I made. It's 44,000 a year. Sorry. If I take 20 lakhs from Prodigy Finance, like, will I be able, so I don't think I can make blanket statements like you will never struggle and stuff like that. But if you really want to find a job, you will. Great story, Joshua. So you're on easy French and was impressed by your linguistic skills. Thanks, Kundu Dance. Can you please help me with one-to-one consultancy regarding making a profile which must be accepted by the best MIM colleges in France? Reach out to me on Instagram. That's so clever of you. Thank you for the ideas. Of course, Melissa. Very well said. Thanks, Vikram. Could you imagine what the world could... Thank you. Thank you. I do read these things. I'm kind of gunning through them now just to answer the MIM questions in this Q&A section. But Martin Robinson, I did read your comment. Thank you so much, and it makes me feel great. And you know what? I'm going to leave a short little reply to it. Love your thoughts. Sometimes people do think or behave in a certain way subconsciously. It's never too late to unlearn the old ways and learn the new ones. Thanks, Mantika. I totally agree. This is life tips. Can you say something about Masters in Industrial Engineering in École Centrale de Nantes, about jobs after Masters and scope for industrial engineering in France? This is a question that I can't answer myself, but since I have a friend who studied a similar degree in France, perhaps I can have him over on my channel and ask him these questions. I think I should do a series with my friends who have jobs after an MIM so that you guys can, drop a couple of questions in that if you like to, so I can ask those questions to those guys. There's a guy from industrial engineering that I can... True indeed, Joshua, I agree absolutely 100. That was Indian, still need to work on. Vous êtes sage, Eric, merci. Great video, this point, thank you. Absolutely explain, thank you. Good points, thank you. You can add this in your title, France or any other country. Great video. Hey, thanks, Mayank. If I visit France one day, I wish to meet you. Great video, Josh. Totally agree on the third and fourth. Thanks, Madhavi. Your Tamil is very good, thank you. Hey, I have a question. I did my BBA from Paris and then took a gap year, did French classes, and now I'm going to do my master's PGE, Programe Grande école in Paris. I have a titre de séjour étudiant. I recently got to know that we need a work permit in order to do alternative study. To do an alternance, work and study, Do you know if we can apply for the permit and how? And after completing PG, apply for APS? After finishing your PG, if you don't have a job, then APS. If you have a job, then get the Passeport Talent because it lasts for 4 years, APS 1 year. But during the school, just reach out to your school, man. They should help you with this. But yeah, you can get a student work permit which lets you do a full-term internship. Can you make a detailed video step-by-step for apprenticeship contracts? Because I didn't do an apprenticeship contract. I'm sorry. My school did not offer that, so I don't know much about it. I'm sorry. Absolutely motivating. But I have a friend over who did that, so maybe I'll have her over and ask her how she built her apprenticeship profile and got the contract. Absolutely motivating. Thank you so much, Josh. I love your videos. Something I am going to work little by little. Aww. You can do it, Janine. You can do it. I don't think age is going to limit your language learning skill. You can do it. I want to get a scholarship. Is it necessary to apply early to get scholarship? The earlier the better, right? Great video, man. It's actually shed some light. Loving the papa in the video. Really appreciate the content you're sharing. Still waiting on that handbook. Great video, man. Love all the shots with your dog and thanks. Super interesting video, man. Perfect storytelling. Thanks, GB Vlogs. Sweetest. Thanks, Parth. Boss, are you married? That's where I stopped last week. So that's it for the Q&A section as well of this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. Check out this video if you don't know how to get started with working on your profile. I'll see you guys next week. Keep learning.